My name is Roxy Elliott, and I am the Director of Content Marketing here at DigitalOcean. And I oversee our blog, white papers, and reports. And prior to joining DO earlier this year, I led the marketing team for a research agency. And today I'm going to talk about DigitalOcean's newest research report that we just released today called Currents. And in this report, we looked at what is a cloud native business and what challenges small and medium-sized businesses are facing today in general and relating to their technology needs and how they're using the cloud. So let's get started. So Currents is DigitalOcean's biannual research report. We do an edition on open source, and then we have started doing an edition looking at small and medium-sized businesses. And for this edition of Currents, we were looking at how SMBs are using cloud services. We know that the cloud has grown in usage, and we really wanted to find out what SMBs' challenges are, how they're using different cloud technology, and what their pain points are. So the objective of the study was to better understand the needs of different types of small and medium businesses, and we compared them to enterprises and their challenges. We dive deep into how cloud services are used by different business types, and then we also examined how cloud native businesses differ from other business types. So the methodology for the study, we conducted 2,400 quantitative surveys in October of this year. And the respondents were IT decision makers, and then we split them into three groups, which are traditional SMBs. So that is your retail, hospitality, sort of traditional small business. Tech-focused SMBs, which this group can also be thought of as startups often. So small businesses that are delivering tech products such as SaaS companies, web agencies, and that sort of group. And then the last group is enterprise companies, which is companies that are 500 employees and over. And the SMB businesses were both under 500 employees. And respondents came from 48 countries, and we ran the survey in multiple languages. So some key insights from the study. SMBs need simplicity at a good price. So small businesses, they're juggling a lot of things at once. They need simple and cost-effective cloud solutions. And that goes for both their infrastructure solutions and also other cloud solutions that they're using like SaaS solutions. We find that there is a knowledge gap amongst traditional SMBs. So that group, they are most likely to use less cloud services, and they don't know as much about cloud services. So that's why they're using less complex setups. COVID-19 has increased reliance on the cloud. This probably doesn't come as a surprise to anyone, but businesses of all sizes have increased their reliance on the cloud due to COVID-19. And even just in 2021, we see that cloud usage has increased. And then looking at cloud native businesses, we see that cloud native businesses, they have more complex setups. So they're using significantly more cloud services than non-cloud natives. They even further increased their cloud usage during COVID-19, and they have some other unique characteristics, which we'll get into a bit later. So first we looked at what are small businesses. Small businesses, there's this term SMB, but there's a lot of different definitions for it. It's not always clear what it actually means. So we asked businesses if they actually describe themselves as a small business or as a medium-sized business. And here we see that traditional SMBs are really the most likely to embrace that SMB label. So the retail, the small corner shop, that is the type of business that is calling themselves a small business. Whereas the tech-focused SMB, 31% are saying they're a small business, but 56%, so larger percentage, are saying they're a medium-sized business. And then interestingly, we see from the enterprise group, those are calling themselves medium-sized businesses and also enterprises. So this varies a bit, but not all of them are actually labeling themselves as enterprises. And we looked at who is managing cloud services at these three different types of groups. And here we see that SMBs of all types, they're more likely to have owners, CEOs, and presidents managing their cloud services. So you can see the enterprises, the job title of the person responsible for managing the cloud services. It's often a CTO, a director of IT, and it's their top priority. So that is usually solely what they're focused on. Whereas with tech-focused SMBs, they might have a CTO, but it could also be an owner managing the cloud services. And it's usually a top priority, but they also have other IT priorities. And then looking at the traditional SMB, most often it is that owner CEO role managing the cloud services. So they may not be as technical. And they have other IT priorities, and then 27%, so over a quarter, actually have non-IT responsibilities as well. So this just shows SMBs of all types, they're really spread thin. They're managing a lot of different things at once, which is one reason that they're often looking for simpler and easy to manage cloud solutions. And then we asked businesses what their top business challenge is today. And we found that COVID-19 recovery is the top challenge facing businesses in 2021, regardless of size. So 26% of traditional SMBs, a quarter of tech-focused SMBs, and 22% of enterprises list pandemic recovery as their largest challenge this year. So even for the large businesses, it's still a major thing that is being focused on. But then interestingly, we also found that for the enterprise businesses and the tech-focused SMBs, technology needs are really the second layer of challenges just after COVID recovery. So ensuring that their technology meets the needs of their customers and ensuring that their technology meets the needs of their business, those were the other top challenges for both the enterprise and tech-focused businesses. Whereas for traditional SMBs, that's not so much of a challenge. For the traditional SMBs, some things that they cited as top business challenges behind COVID were keeping revenue up, keeping overhead costs down. So they're more focused on sort of day-to-day running of the business, whereas the tech-focused SMB and enterprise, they are really focused on technology as a major business challenge. And then we also asked about specific technology challenges and what is the biggest technology challenge facing your business today? And here we found a big difference with that traditional SMB group. So cost of services and time needed to manage those cloud services, that's more of a challenge to traditional SMBs than it is to the other two groups. So 19% of traditional SMBs say cost of tech services is a challenge, and then 12% say time needed to manage services is a challenge. And these are both significantly higher than the other two groups and what they said, though cost was also a challenge, more of a challenge for the tech-focused SMB than the enterprise, as you would expect. And one reason that that cost is likely a greater concern for SMBs is because they are paying more for tech solutions. So they're paying a larger amount of their revenue for tech solutions. So here you can see the average revenues of the companies that we surveyed, and then their average monthly spend for cloud services, and their average monthly spend for SaaS solutions. And you can see it's a bigger chunk of their revenue that they are paying for both cloud services and SaaS solutions for those smaller businesses. And then we found that COVID-19, it's led to an increased reliance on cloud infrastructure solutions. And as I mentioned, demand has increased even into 2021. So COVID-19 might have been the spark, but its cloud usage is just continuing to increase. So 86% say that they've increased their reliance on cloud solutions just this year. And overall, 65% said that they have increased their reliance on cloud infrastructure overall as a result of COVID-19. And we also looked at single cloud, multi-cloud, and hybrid setups and wanted to find out how this usually comes to be and what types of businesses are using these different setups. And here we found some pretty interesting differences. So the enterprise and the tech-focused SMBs are both using multi-cloud and hybrid cloud models much more than the traditional SMB. So 44% of enterprises are using multi-cloud and 40% of tech-focused SMBs, and then 44% of enterprises use hybrid cloud, and tech-focused SMBs, 36% use a hybrid model. Whereas 46%, so almost half of traditional SMBs, if they're even using the cloud, they're using just a single cloud provider rather than spreading it out. And another interesting thing that we found here was that tech-focused SMB or sort of startup group, they are actually the most likely to be consciously choosing a multi-cloud solution. So almost 60% of that group that are multi-cloud, they said they're consciously choosing multi-cloud. That's either to have redundancy in their setup or so that they can choose different partners for different cloud needs. And that was much higher than either the enterprise or the traditional SMB group, and that they were much more likely to make that sort of a conscious part of their setup. And next, we wanted to look at cloud native businesses. So at DigitalOcean, we think of cloud native businesses as those who they're built in the cloud, they're growing in the cloud, they're leveraging microservices and cloud solutions and more complex cloud setups usually than those businesses that are not considered to be cloud native. But we wanted to really find out, how do those businesses differ? What are the commonalities? And what challenges they have that non-cloud native businesses may not have? So first, we looked at who actually knows what cloud native means. So here we found that traditional SMBs, really almost half of them are not at all familiar with the term cloud native. And that's much higher than those at enterprises and tech-focused SMBs, where near 90% or over 90% say that they're either very familiar with the term or somewhat familiar with the term. So here it's really the traditional SMB group that is not as familiar with this. And then we asked an open-ended question asking, what does cloud native mean to you? What is the definition of it? Just to see how this can vary. And they did vary a bit, but most agree it includes strong usage of the cloud, and scalability is also mentioned quite a bit. So you can see refers to creating and running applications to benefit from distributed computing that provides flexibility and scale, running of scalable apps. There's mention of microservices, building different parts of our application, different cloud services, and helping with separation of concerns and scalability. So just some interesting definitions here around what cloud native really means to the types of businesses that consider themselves a cloud native. And then we did ask who does consider themselves to be a cloud native business. And as you can see, the enterprise companies and tech-focused SMBs, they're the ones most likely to say that they are cloud native. So 64% of enterprises and 58% of tech-focused SMBs say that, yes, they are a cloud native business. And then there's also a pretty strong overlap with this term startup. So we asked, do you consider your company a startup? And we found that 61% of those who also say they're cloud native say that they are a startup. So it's not 100% overlap, but it is pretty strong. So pretty clear that there is sort of some common ground between startups and cloud native companies. And then we looked at some of the unique characteristics and challenges of cloud native companies. So 57% have taken funding compared to just 30% of non-cloud native businesses. So that links back to that sort of startup idea that they're more likely to have taken external funding. 43% find hiring and training employees on technology a challenge versus just 30% of non-cloud natives. So likely because they're using more complex cloud solutions and more cloud solutions, it's hard to hire people for those roles. And then also a larger percent say that complexity is a challenge. Complexity of cloud solutions is a challenge that they face versus about a quarter of non-cloud natives. And then we asked a few questions about just attitudes and opinions on technology and what it means to their business. And here we found that the cloud native group, they view cloud solutions as critical to their business, critical to cost savings, and also as a way to enable employees to focus on other core functions. So you can see cloud natives have higher levels of agreement with almost all of these statements. So 81% say that cloud solutions are critical to their business's success, compared to 68% of the non-cloud native group. 79% believe they're saving money by using the cloud versus an on-premise infrastructure. And 70% say hiring employees with the skills needed to maintain their infrastructure is a challenge, which goes back to they're using more cloud solutions, more complex solutions, so they're finding hiring more of a challenge. And then as I mentioned, we found that cloud native companies, they have more advanced cloud setups than non-cloud native businesses. So not a huge surprise here, but they use a larger selection of both cloud infrastructure services and also more SaaS solutions. They're more likely to be multi-cloud, with 46% saying they're multi-cloud versus 36% of non-cloud natives. And they're more likely to use container services and other more complex cloud solutions. So what does it all mean? Just wrapping it up here with some final thoughts. So businesses of all sizes and backgrounds, they're relying on cloud solutions more than ever. This did accelerate during COVID-19, but it just keeps growing and continues to accelerate. Cloud native businesses, they have more advanced setups, so they have challenges hiring and training employees. They want less complex cloud solutions, easier to manage solutions since they're using more cloud solutions. And then there's a strong overlap between startups and cloud natives, but not every cloud native does consider themselves a startup. So some of them certainly are older businesses. And then that traditional SMB group, they suffer from a knowledge gap. So they need more education on cloud services so they can utilize them more to their advantage. And then you can download this new report, which was just released today. There's a full report with a lot more insights. We also have regional insights in there at digitalocean.com/current/November 2021. I hope you found this interesting and look forward to the rest of Deploy.